The massive viewing screen in the Galactic Council chamber flickered to life, casting an eerie blue glow across the faces of the assembled alien representatives. Admiral Chen of the United Earth Fleet stood quietly, hands clasped behind his back, watching as the council members leaned forward in their seats. Their various appendages twitched with obvious anxiety as they studied the holographic projection before them. "Impossible," whispered High Counselor Dextel, their crystalline form shimmering with disbelief. "Your species has only achieved faster than light travel within the last solar cycle. This vessel, it defies all known principles of ship design." The hologram rotated slowly, revealing the sleek, angular form of the UES Hyperion. Its dark hull seemed to absorb the light around it, broken only by the pulsing blue lines of its energy conduits. The ship's profile was unlike anything the Council had ever encountered. No graceful curves like Altarian vessels, no biological components like Sci-Fi ships, just pure, calculated human engineering. "With all due respect, High Counselor," Chen replied, allowing a slight smile to cross his face, "we humans have always had a unique approach to problem solving. The Hyperion represents humanity's response to being told something couldn't be done." The council chamber erupted in murmurs as technical specifications began scrolling across the screen. Captain Sarah Walker, the ship's commanding officer, had authorized the release of just enough information to make the council understand what they were dealing with. The reactor output alone caused several of the more technically minded representatives to exchange worried glances. "But the energy requirements," started Counselor Vex, their tentacles writhing in agitation. "The structural integrity factors, the weapons systems," they trailed off, mandibles clicking rapidly, "are all perfectly within acceptable parameters," Chen finished smoothly. "The Hyperion has already completed its shakedown cruise and combat trials. We're here today merely as a courtesy, to inform the Council of its commissioning into active service." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity, the newest member of the galactic community, had somehow managed to create something that centuries-old spacefaring civilizations had deemed impossible. The question hanging in the air was obvious. What else were these humans capable of? High Counselor Zestel's crystalline form pulsed with deep red light, a sign of intense concern among their species. "Admiral Chen, surely you understand our discomfort. Your species has demonstrated a remarkable aptitude for military innovation. Some might even call it disturbing." Ken's expression remained neutral, but his eyes hardened slightly. "High Counselor, we've reviewed the historical records. The last 3 species that achieved spaceflight without developing adequate defensive capabilities were subjugated within a decade. Humanity has no intention of becoming the 4th. The silence that followed was deafening. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others stared fixedly at the rotating hologram of the Hyperion. The implication was clear. Humanity knew exactly what kind of galaxy they had joined, and they had prepared accordingly. "Now," Chen continued, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber, "shall we discuss the real reason I was summoned here today? Because I don't believe this meeting was called simply to express shock at human engineering capabilities." He paused, looking directly at Zextel. "The pirate raids in the Outer Rim are getting worse, aren't they? And if I'm not mistaken, you've lost contact with 3 patrol fleets in the last month alone." The council members exchanged worried glances. Something was stirring in the darkness between the stars, something that had the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy running scared. And now they all had to wrestle with a new question. Was humanity's timing purely coincidental, or had they known something like this was coming? High Counselor Enestel's crystalline form dimmed to a deep indigo, a clear sign of resignation. 3 patrol fleets, they confirmed quietly, the finest ships and crews from the combined defense force. Over 12,000 experienced personnel, just gone. The council chamber seemed to grow colder with each word. Admiral Chen nodded slowly, his weathered face revealing nothing, but Captain Walker, who had served under him for 15 years, recognized the subtle tightening around his eyes. He'd worn the same expression during the Mars crisis, right before revealing the existence of humanity's first antimatter weapons. The pirates' tactics have changed, continued Counselor Vex, their tentacles now nearly still, a sign of extreme distress among their species. They're no longer just raiding commerce vessels. They're hunting our warships, specifically targeting our most advanced patrol groups. And you believe these are ordinary pirates? Ken's question cut through the chamber like a plasma torch through hull plating. Several council members flinched visibly. What exactly are you implying, Admiral? The question came from Ambassador Tilera of the Sentinel Worlds, her bioluminescent patterns flashing with barely contained anger. That one of the council races is behind these attacks. Chen activated his data pad, and new images appeared on the massive screen. They showed debris fields, the scattered remains of what had once been powerful warships. But something about the destruction pattern caught everyone's attention. These images were captured by long-range probes we sent to investigate the attack sites, Chen explained. Notice anything unusual about the damage patterns? Captain Walker stepped forward, her voice clear and professional. The hull breaches are consistent with weapons technology far beyond anything currently known to exist in Council space. The energy signatures suggest weaponry that, according to your own databases, shouldn't be possible for another century at least. The Council chamber erupted in a chaos of voices and movements. Some representatives demanded to know how humans had accessed classified weapons data. Others called for immediate action against this unknown threat. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Order! Zextol's voice resonated through the chamber, their crystalline form pulsing with bright white light. When quiet returned, they turned to Chen. You knew. Somehow, you knew this was coming. That's why you built the Hyperion. Ken's expression remained carefully neutral. 3 years ago, we detected unusual energy signatures at the edge of our solar system. Signs of advanced cloaking technology trying to observe Earth without being noticed. We traced similar signatures near every major spacefaring civilization's homeworld. Someone was studying us, Walker added, her hand unconsciously moving to the combat medallion she wore from the Mars crisis. Learning our capabilities, our weaknesses, we decided not to wait to find out their intentions. The Hyperion isn't just a warship, Chen continued, bringing up new schematics on the screen. It's a response to a threat we knew was coming but couldn't prove. Its design incorporates countermeasures to technologies we theorized might exist based on those energy signatures. The council chamber grew deathly quiet as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just created an impossible warship. They had been preparing for an enemy that the council's finest minds hadn't even detected. There's something else, Walker said, her voice tight with controlled tension. The energy signatures we detected, they're getting stronger, and according to our latest data, they're no longer just observing. They're moving, converging. We estimate less than 3 months before whatever's out there makes its presence known. Ambassador Tilera's bioluminescence had faded to almost nothing. 3 months, and how many ships like the Hyperion do you have, Admiral? Chen's slight smile returned, but it didn't reach his eyes. That, Ambassador, is what we're here to discuss, because whatever's coming isn't just humanity's problem anymore. And I think it's time we had a frank conversation about exactly what humanity can bring to this fight. Before Admiral Chen could elaborate, the council chamber's emergency alerts blared to life. Red warning lights bathed the room in a crimson glow as holographic displays erupted with urgent data streams. The timing couldn't have been worse, or perhaps more perfect. Multiple unknown contacts detected at the edge of council space announced the automated defense system. Energy signatures matched the previous attack patterns. Count is increasing. Current estimate, 300 vessels and climbing. Captain Walker's hand moved to her communicator. Hyperion, this is Walker. Begin emergency launch sequence. All hands to battle stations. She turned to Chen, who gave a slight nod of approval. 300 ships? Counselor Vex's tentacles were practically tied in knots. The combined defense force couldn't stand against a fleet that size, not with the technology they'd demonstrated. High Counselor Zextol's crystalline form pulsed with rapid colors, fear, anger, and determination cycling in quick succession. Admiral Chen, I believe the time for diplomatic niceties has passed. You mentioned humanity has something to bring to this fight. We're listening." Chen activated his secure command channel. The main display switched to a live feed of Earth's orbit. What it showed caused several council members to rise from their seats in shock. Where there had been empty space moments before, ships were appearing. Not one or two, but dozens, then hundreds. They shimmered into view like ghosts becoming solid, each bearing the same angular, predatory design as the Hyperion. A fleet that had been hiding in plain sight, protected by cloaking technology that even the Council's best sensors couldn't detect. "Did you really think we'd build just one?" Chen's voice carried a hint of pride. The Hyperion was never meant to be a singular achievement. It was the prototype. What you're seeing is the first fleet of the United Earth Defense Force. 250 ships, all built to the same specifications, all waiting for this moment. "Impossible," whispered Ambassador Kilera, her bioluminescence flickering wildly. "The resources required, the technological advancement. No species could have progressed so quickly." "When humanity puts its mind to something," Ambassador Walker replied, her eyes fixed on the tactical display, "we tend to exceed expectations, especially when our survival is at stake." The unknown fleet was now fully visible on the long-range scanners, their formation suggesting an attack vector aimed directly at the Council's core systems. But they had suddenly slowed their advance. Their sensors must have detected the human fleet's emergence. "They're adjusting their formation," Chen observed, his voice tight with anticipation. "They didn't expect resistance on this scale. Not here. Not now." He turned to address the Council directly. "We have about 15 minutes before they come within weapons range, so I suggest we skip the debate about whether humanity has overstepped its bounds and focus on the real question. Are you ready to let us help you fight this battle?" The tactical display showed the unknown fleet splitting into smaller battle groups. Whether it was a sign of hesitation or a new strategy wasn't clear, but one thing was certain: the next few minutes would determine the fate of not just humanity, but every species in Council space. Captain Walker's communicator crackled. "Captain, Hyperion reports full combat readiness. The rest of the fleet awaits your command." She looked at Chen, then at the Council members, their alien faces showing a range of emotions from fear to hope. High Counselor Zextol rose from their seat, their crystalline form now glowing with a steady, determined blue light. They opened their mouth to respond, but a new alert cut through the chamber. The unknown fleet had launched something, thousands of small, fast-moving objects racing ahead of their main force. Multiple projectiles detected. The defense system's warnings reached a fever pitch. Impact in 3 minutes. Energy readings are off the scale. They're not normal weapons. They're not weapons. Chen interrupted, his face suddenly pale. "They're quantum phase beacons. They're trying to create a breach." His hands flew across his command console, sending emergency signals to the human fleet. Captain Walker's eyes widened in recognition. Like the Mars incident, she turned to the confused council members, speaking quickly. 3 years ago, we detected similar devices during our first encounter with unknown forces. They create temporary tears in space-time. We thought we were the only ones who knew about that attack. The council chamber erupted in chaos as the implications became clear. The Mars incident? High Counselor Zextol's crystalline form flickered erratically. Your reports claimed that was a mining accident that destroyed your fourth colony. Because we needed to keep this quiet, Chent responded, his voice sharp with urgency. We weren't ready then. We lost 30,000 colonists learning what these things could do. But this time, he activated a new set of controls on his command deck. Hyperion Actual. Initiate Protocol Omega. Authorization Chen 7 Delta 9. The massive viewing screen showed the human fleet splitting into a new formation. The ships moved with impossible precision, creating a complex geometric pattern in space. Energy began to flow between them, visible as streams of blue-white light connecting ship to ship. By the first stars, whispered Ambassador Kilera, they're linking their power grids, but the energy requirements would be exactly what we need, Walker finished. Each ship in our fleet carries a modified version of the quantum technology we recovered from Mars. Together, they can create a containment field, but we need something else. She turned to the Council. We need access to your stellar mapping data. All of it. Now. Before anyone could respond, a new alarm blared. The defense system's AI spoke with unmistakable urgency. Warning. Quantum phase destabilization detected in sectors 7 through 13. Spatial integrity failing. New signatures detected. Energy patterns match no known configuration. The screen showed new ships emerging from the tiers in space, vessels that seemed to bend reality around them, their forms difficult for the human eye to focus on. They were unlike anything in Council records, neither fully material nor completely energy-based. This was never about invasion, Chen said quietly, his eyes fixed on the screen. They're not trying to conquer Council space. They're trying to transform it. Those beacons aren't just creating breaches. They're changing the fundamental laws of physics in our dimension. Captain Walker's communicator buzzed again. Captain, Hyperion reports the fleet is in position, but the containment field won't be enough. We need a focal point for the counterphase, something to anchor our reality against theirs. The Council spire, Zextel said suddenly, their voice carrying an odd resonance. All eyes turned to the High Counselor, the central tower of this very building. It's built around something we've kept secret for millennia. Something we found when our species first achieved spaceflight. Ken's eyes narrowed. What exactly is beneath this chamber, High Counselor? Zextel's crystalline form pulsed with ancient knowledge. We call it the Nexus. It's older than any known civilization. We believed it was dormant, merely a curiosity from some long-dead race. But now, they touched a hidden control on their podium, and the floor began to transform, revealing a sight that made even the stoic Admiral Chen step back in amazement. Below them, stretching down into the planet's core, was a massive crystalline structure pulsing with the same otherworldly energy as the invading ships, and its rhythm was increasing, resonating with the quantum breaches tearing apart space above them. Well, Chen said, his voice tight with controlled tension, now we know why they chose today to attack. He looked at Captain Walker, then at the Council members. The question is, do we try to shut it down, or do we use it? Before anyone could answer, the Nexus flared with blinding light, and a voice that wasn't quite a voice echoed through every mind in the chamber. Protoxiol NXIATE. Convergency beginning. The Nexus's energy signature suddenly matched the frequency of the quantum breaches above, creating a harmonic resonance that shook the Council chamber. Admiral Chen's decades of military experience told him they had seconds to act, not minutes. Walker, tell the fleet to maintain the containment grid no matter what happens, Chen ordered, his hands flying across his command console. Hyperion, divert all power to the quantum shields. He turned to High Counselor Ixtal, his voice carrying the weight of a decision that would change everything. We're not shutting it down. We're going to use it. But I need to know, did anyone ever try to communicate with it? Ixtal's crystalline form pulsed with confusion. Communicate? It's a power source. A relic? Nada. Look at the energy patterns. Walker interrupted, pointing to her tactical display. They're not random. It's a language, the same one we detected during the Mars incident. We couldn't decode it then, but now. She pulled up the linguistic analysis software they'd developed since Mars. The invaders aren't trying to destroy the Nexus. They're trying to wake it up. The mysterious voice resonated again, stronger this time. UNVERGENC at 60%. Realignment of local space-time proceeding. Chen made his decision. Hyperion Actual. Execute Protocol Omega Phase 2. Authorization. Full breakdown. He looked at Walker. Captain, I hope that translation matrix of yours works. The human fleet's formation shifted again, their linked energy fields creating a complex geometric pattern that perfectly mirrored the Nexus's crystalline structure. Power flowed from ship to ship, building to impossible levels. What are you doing? Ambassador Tilera demanded, her bioluminescence flashing an alarm. Those energy levels could tear the planet apart. We're not fighting them, Chen explained, his eyes fixed on the display. We're joining the conversation. He nodded to Walker, who activated the translation program. The Hyperion's quantum field pulsed in a precise pattern, interfacing with the Nexus's energy signature. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the voice changed, becoming clearer, more focused. Pro-to-o-c-o-o pa-wios-d. New variant DTECTE. Analyzing. The invading ships suddenly stopped their advance, their reality-bending forms stabilizing into more recognizable shapes. The quantum breaches began to close, but the energy didn't dissipate. It flowed into the Nexus, strengthening it. They're not invaders, Walker breathed, reading the translated data streams. They're caretakers. The Nexus isn't a power source. It's a seed for creating new universes planted by. She stopped, her eyes wide with realization. By us, Chen finished quietly. Not us now, but us eventually. Humanity, after we master dimensional engineering. The other races too. We're looking at our own future, trying to ensure its own creation. The voice spoke again, this time in clear, understandable words. Temporal LOP VLIDATE. Human recognition achieved ahead of pro-GCTE time E-line. Adjusting parameters. The council chamber filled with holographic displays showing impossible mathematics, the science of universe creation. Knowledge that humanity and the council races were meant to discover gradually over millennia, now being offered freely. But why the attacks? Counselor Vex demanded. Why destroy our ships? Not destroyed, Walker corrected, checking her readings. Transformed. Look. The tactical display showed the missing patrol fleets reappearing, their crews alive but changed, evolved. They were preparing us, advancing our evolution to help us understand. The Nexus pulsed once more, and the voice spoke its final message. Seed protocolo completed. Humanity's early re-civilization requires time-line adjustment. New variables integral. The invading fleet began to fade, their mission apparently complete. But as they vanished, one last transmission came through, this one directed specifically at Chen. Remember Mars, Admiral. It illugues SNTT, the end. It was the beginning. Look for US and D, though ID between Andromeda's arms. Your real trial begins now. As the council chamber erupted in excited chaos, Chen and Walker shared a knowing look. They had prevented one crisis only to be handed a greater challenge, humanity's first step toward becoming the beings they had just encountered. High Counselor Dextol's voice cut through the commotion. Admiral, your ship, your fleet. You built them because you knew this was coming. But how? Chen smiled slightly, touching an old scar on his neck. A scar he'd received on Mars. Let's just say this wasn't the first time I had this conversation. He looked up at the stealth screen, where a new set of coordinates was appearing, pointing to a location deep in intergalactic space. And it won't be the last. The council chamber had fallen into a contemplative silence as the implications of what they'd witnessed sank in. Admiral Chen stood at the viewing window, watching as the human fleet resumed its normal patrol formation, their linked energy fields now dormant, but forever changed by their interaction with the Nexus. So, Ambassador Tilera said softly, her bioluminescence now a calm, steady glow. Humanity didn't just build a warship. You built a bridge to our future. She turned to Chen, the Hyperion and its fleet. They were designed to channel the Nexus's energy all along. Chen nodded, his weathered face showing a hint of relief. We knew we needed a fleet that could do more than just fight. The Mars incident showed us that technology alone wasn't the answer. We needed to understand the bigger picture. Captain Walker was still at her console, analyzing the vast amount of data they'd received. The knowledge transferred from the Nexus. It's not just technical specifications. It's a roadmap showing how each of our species contributes to creating something greater than ourselves. High Counselor Nextol approached the central platform where the Nexus's energy still pulsed gently. Their crystalline form had taken on a new pattern, one that seemed to reflect the complex mathematical structures they'd witnessed. For millennia, we thought we were protecting a relic of the past. Instead, we were guarding our future. Not just guarding it, Chen corrected, turning from the window, building toward it. Every scientific advancement, every breakthrough in understanding, they weren't random. The Nexus was guiding us, preparing us for this moment. Counselor Vex, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. The coordinates they gave us, the void between Andromeda's arms. What do you think we'll find there? The next test, Walker answered, looking up from her readings. This was just the beginning, proving we could recognize our future selves, that we could understand instead of just react with fear. She smiled slightly. Though I have to admit, building a fleet of advanced warships wasn't exactly a peaceful first response. We built what we needed to. Chen said firmly, a fleet capable of either defending Earth or bridging dimensions. Sometimes the best way to avoid a fight is to be ready for one. The council members began to discuss the immediate future, how to handle this revelation, what it meant for the balance of power, how to proceed with the knowledge they'd been given. But Chen's attention was drawn to something else, a small data stream, almost hidden in the flood of information from the Nexus, addressed specifically to him. Remember Mars, he murmured, touching his scar again. The memories were clearer now. The first encounter, the sacrifice of the colony, and the moment he'd understood what needed to be done. He carried that understanding for 3 years, building humanity's response while knowing he couldn't reveal the full truth until today. Captain Walker joined him at the window, her voice low. Sir, about that last transmission, about this not being your first time having this conversation. Does that mean? Chen smiled, watching as the Hyperion led the fleet in a perfect formation turn. Time isn't as linear as we once thought, Captain. Sometimes the best way to prepare for the future is to remember it. He straightened his uniform and turned to address the council. Now shall we discuss how to prepare for our next trial? After all, we have a lot of work to do before we're ready to plant seeds of our own among the stars. As the council chamber filled with renewed purpose and energy, the Nexus hummed quietly beneath them, its mission accomplished. Humanity and the council races had taken their first step toward becoming the architects of new universes. The Hyperion and its fleet would lead the way, not as weapons of war, but as tools of creation. The future they had glimpsed was vast and full of challenges, but they would face it together, guided by the knowledge that they were all part of something far greater than their individual civilizations. And somewhere in the void between Andromeda's arms, their next test was waiting.